Alright, jump into another one. On sort of the same topic, seemingly, from the title. This one is Everything is Relationships.
Wow asked for a video about relationships, particularly loving relationships. And where do I start? I've talked about this on some podcasts, but I don't think I've talked about it on this channel. Which is that I believe that everything is relationships, right? Even before we talk about romantic relationships between people, like everything in the universe really is made up of relationships. Everything is things in relation to other things. Every concept, every idea, every object, right? If you want to understand something, whatever the thing is, you understand it in relation to other things. You understand how when you change something, something else changes, right? So when, if you look at math and you have a graph of, x over y, when you have some formula, you change some variable, something else changes. If you're thinking about food, it's like what happens when you take this piece of meat or whatever and you subject it to heat. How does the heat change the molecules in the food? Everything relates to everything else. Everything is a thing does not exist except in relation to other things. It's pretty profound if you really get into it. But okay, let's talk about romantic, loving
I feel like I'm just going to not say anything during this whole podcast because I just agree with you.
He said loving relationship, so it doesn't necessarily have to be romantic. You can have a loving relationship with your family. You can have a loving relationship with yourself. I think that's the most important loving relationship to have, is the relationship with yourself.
I'll just toss in, it's in my bio, internal family systems. It's all about the relationships that you've got with yourself, the relationships between the different parts of yourself. So this is very much one of my preferred lenses on things.
You are the person in your life that is most present in your life. You can't run away from yourself. You are always a constant in your own life. I mean, I guess you could say while you're sleeping, or if you're having some kind of psychedelic experience, then I don't know, then maybe you might not be present in that moment. But generally, by and large, you are going to be a constant in your life, and therefore it is worthwhile to cultivate a healthy, loving, nourishing relationship with yourself. What does that mean? What does that look like? Well, what is love? It's a big question, the biggest question. One of the simplistic frames that I found helpful sometimes is to reduce everything to love and fear, where, fear is, aversion to experiencing pain, aversion to being hurt, aversion to getting damaged in some way, experiencing something negative, right? Being mocked, being attacked, whether it's physical violence or, like social approbation, is that a word? Right? Like being disapproved of, being made fun of, that sort of thing. And so you have fear for that. And then on the flip side, you have love, which is support, nourishment, encouragement, wanting to see something flourish, wanting to see something work out, wanting to see something grow and be beautiful and be wonderful, right? So if there's in anything in your life, so I'm working on my book right now. Well, not right now. Right now I'm taking a break. But when I go back to working on my book, like the two dominant emotions that I will have is love and fear, right? Fear that the book's not going to be great. Fear that people are going to not like the book, or they're going to find it unhelpful, or even worse, they might feel that it challenges them uncomfortably in a way that's not productive. But there's love in that, I have had lots of conversations with people, and I feel like I've helped them out in those conversations, and I love the feeling that I get when I help someone else with love, right? Like with being supportive, being encouraging, being a presence in their life that makes them feel comfortable.
I haven't listened to it yet, but you have a video called Gratitude Feels Amazing in the Body, and I'm going to just guess that you talk about love there too.
Makes them feel at home, makes them feel wanted, like they belong, like they matter. And so that's the competing emotions that I experienced working on the book. And the book is, so while right now the book is weighing on me heavily because it's the major project in my life, after a while I'll be done with it and then I'll move on to other things. But I anticipate that the conflict between love and fear is going to be a feature throughout my life, right? In everything I've done so far, playing in a band on stage, tweeting, making these videos, right? I do it for the love. I do it for the love of it. I do it because I want to connect with people. I want to be helpful to people if possible. I want to make a difference if I can. I want people to feel more comfortable, less alone, less isolated, alienated. And so these are very big, broad, generic sort of ideas. But how do we bring this into relationships? Well, what is a relationship in like an interpersonal sense, right? I think a lot of people do have rather limited models of relationships. Like there's a sense of it's very defined, right? Like you're my friend, or you're my lover, or you're my boyfriend or girlfriend, or my spouse, my wife. And I think there are effectively infinite ways to relate to people, right? So to have a relationship with someone, you both relate to each other in some way, right? Like, and it may be different things. I mean, relate to you in some way that's different than the way you relate to me, right? That's still a relationship. It might be, a sort of unequal relationship in some sense, right? People talk about parasocial relationships with regards to celebrities and whatnot, where you feel like you have a relationship with them because you are witnessing their utterances, you're witnessing what they say, what they do, you're watching them, but they don't know who you are, not directly, and they experience you as part of like a much bigger and broader kind of nebulous fan base or audience or something. And I'm still a tiny YouTuber, so I still kind of have the opportunity to respond to every comment that people leave on my channel, and I'm making this video for someone who asked me about it, and so it's not yet kind of inaccessible. I can still have a personal relationship with each individual, but the relationship between a creator or a maker, an artist, and their audience is always there's always a certain dynamic, right? And there are artists that I love and admire who don't know who I am. And that's fine, right? And I have separate like tweets and blog posts about how it's, there's this sense that parasocial relationships are intrinsically bad.
Well, yeah, you just said the word parasocial, and that's what this is. But hey, it's kind of fun. Who knows what will come of it?
I don't think that's true. I think that we just need to be honest with ourselves and each other about how the relationships are, and we can be useful to each other even if we don't necessarily.
And also, I don't know, like maybe I just don't really know the technical definition of parasocial beyond just kind of grokking with that. Grokking, I've never used that word before out loud. What it means, but based on the roots and everything. But I mean, if you're like in school and you're shy, as I have been, you're in school and you're shy, and there's like a really cute, popular girl that doesn't really know you, but you kind of are in your social circles sometimes bump into each other. That's parasocial too, no? But that doesn't involve social media. I don't know. It's a real life phenomenon, I think. It's just exacerbated, or whatever word you want to use, scaled in various ways due to online interaction.
Rarely have direct personal conversations with each other. But okay, I feel like I haven't quite gotten to talking about loving relationships in a useful way with regards to what I think Joao is asking, right? And what I assume he's asking when he asked the question, can you talk about can you talk about loving relationships? It's just, how do you live in a way that is loving with the people in your life? And I
feel like this question and the answer you're about to give are like the perfect answer to the other one about how to not be grumpy with people online. It's like, Oh, cultivate being loving.
The most important thing in any relationship is attention, right? People feel unseen, unheard, unvalidated. They feel lonely and isolated because they feel like nobody sees them, nobody hears them, nobody...
And isn't this a huge reason why so many of us go to Twitter, is feeling those things and hoping to get those things from these other unknown people with not even real names or faces, you know? Liking our stuff, it makes us feel, to some degree, validated and seen.
Cares for them, right? And I find that ridiculous. I mean, it's real, it's true. I just think it's crazy that we live in a world where we have so much technology and we have all this connectedness, connectivity. We can reach out to people all the time, and yet people feel isolated and disconnected. Why? It's because, fear is a part of it, right? Again, I talked about love and fear. It's that people don't share of themselves because of fear. And, think about any...
But also, I mean, online is a totally different thing. Sharing, you're on a stage that literally the whole world can see. You know? Not that you don't get this, obviously. Just adding it since it wasn't said explicitly. But yeah, like sharing one-to-one with other people and developing intimacy in that way is one thing, but sharing publicly on Twitter, where literally what you say can be seen by anyone at any time, that is extremely scary. And I think it's an open question as to whether it's even a good thing to do, or there are better and worse ways to do it, I guess I'll say.
The story or any story, I guess, about like a relationship where people feel lonely, right? You can be married and you can feel lonely in your marriage because you feel like your spouse is almost like a stranger, right? Like there's people who...
Yeah, actually, I know I keep cutting you off, but thinker, therapist that one of my favorites, who I never really talk about, but her name is Pia Melody, and I was rereading some of my notes from her the other day, and she talks about the difference between acquaintances and friends, and says basically that you can be friends, like you can be truly intimate friends with someone after like 10 minutes, and you can also be acquaintances with your spouse for your entire life. And it's kind of mind-blowing that is true.
Who have described that, like the stranger in my bed next to me, who I have obligations to, and have responsibilities towards, and yet I feel like we don't see each other, like we see each other literally, like eyes to eyes, but we don't treat each other as full, complex, wonderful, beautiful human beings. We just have to worry about the bills, we have to worry about the kids, we have kids, we have to worry about just all the nitty-gritty day-to-day things about life, right? The ordeal. And that's very sad. It's very sad when people feel isolated and alone in their relationships. And the way out, in my opinion, is to make an effort to see each other, to really, and you have to set aside your assumptions, you have to set aside your resentments, your anger, your frustration. You have to kind of make a gift, right? You have to give the other person the gift of your attention, and you have to be willing to see them and be willing to hear them without the baggage of your assumptions and your neediness. And that's hard, right? Because we have needs. So how do you navigate having needs while not being needy, right? That's the challenge. And I think we have to start by nourishing ourselves.
Right, and then not just going in the opposite direction, being like, I have zero needs, which is kind of like the extreme misinterpretation of Stoicism, I think. I'm no expert in Stoicism, but it can often come across as being like, I don't have any needs, I don't need you, I don't give a fuck. But we do have needs.
And how I have approached that in my life is to read books, watch videos, right, listen to music. I've always felt that authors and musicians love me even if they don't know who I am and they don't care about me personally as an individual. They care about me in the abstract enough to want to make art, like even as they have to deal with their struggles, right? They make art because they care and they want to connect with other people. And I think that if we are to have loving relationships in the world with other people and with the world at large and with ourselves, we have to make time and energy, we have to make time, we have to devote energy and our attention to really seeing other people and giving them our time and not imposing our needs on them immediately, right? We have to negotiate our needs with people over time. Once we've made all these small little bits, small little asks, and I hope that helps. I don't know if that's enough detail. I might need more specific questions to give more specific answers, but that's the general vibe of what I'm trying to talk about and what I'm trying to do. Okay.
You know, I'm going to kind of segue into something that you weren't talking about at all, but needs and how they arise and are like illuminated within marketing and within our relationship to marketing. Something that I've thought quite a bit about, I guess, but I've never written about it exactly, but marketing is, another way to look at it is, if you just think about it person to person, obviously you can do it within a business, right? Where it's like the process of finding the people who are into what you have to offer and getting them to pay you for that. But like, just on a person-to-person basis, it's what you were just saying. It's individuals, like two people in a relationship, recognizing that each of them have needs and doing what they need to do to communicate those needs to the other person so that they can get them met, you know, and negotiating that. And so marketing to me really is just a broader version of that, where it's like we all have needs, and the people who run businesses have needs. They have material needs. They have, you know, like we need to earn money for the most part. I mean, there's ways to operate without money, but like money is for the most part what we use to feed ourselves and house ourselves and whatnot. So I think it's fair to call at least those things needs, and then money as the medium or whatever with which, the currency with which we can get that. And anyway, so marketing is the process of communicating your needs to other people and meeting other people's needs. And so, you know, because you're saying like, hey, look, I exist, I have to live, I have to feed myself, I have to clothe myself, house myself, and so I'm going to do this thing and create a relationship with you in such a way that you can help me meet my needs, right? That's why you market, that's why you sell things, ultimately, is to make a living. That's why many of us work, for the most part. I'm not saying that's the only reason, but it's a big one. And yeah, so then there's something that I've experienced for a long time, and I'm slowly growing out of this, or seeing it in a larger way, is that you know, when you hate marketing, you don't want to engage in marketing, it's kind of saying like, it's disrespecting your own needs. It's saying I don't have needs, or I'm just too afraid to express the fact that I have needs to other people. You know, it's like, yeah, I have this business. Let's say you're just like a solopreneur kind of person. I run a business, and I do run it so that I can earn money to live, pay for the things in my life, right? That's why I do it. I love it too, but like I also do it for that reason. But then to be like, oh, I hate marketing, I don't want to do marketing. It's like, well, why? And some of the reasons that I've experienced myself, I have seen it in others, but I'll speak for myself, is like, I'm just scared of admitting that. Like, it's easier for me to say, like, no, I don't have needs. I can get by without earning money. Like, I don't need that much money, actually, because I'm scared to say to someone else, like, I have needs. Can you help me meet my needs? And this is true in a professional context in which there's exchanges of money, but it's also true in person-to-person relationships that I've had, you know, with friends, with significant others, with parents. It's something that I've been having to learn more and more over the years. To be like, yeah, I do have needs, and I'm not going to just pretend like I don't, you know? Like, I need intimacy, I need some touch, or I need whatever. And coming to terms with that and accepting it and allowing yourself to have needs and not just being like, no, I'm needless, I'm fine, I don't need you, I don't need money, I don't need food. Food was a big one was for me for a while. It was like, I used to fast a lot and be like, I don't need food. Like, I'm fine, I don't need to eat. You know, and it's really it's not self-respecting. It's undermining yourself, undermining your own health, undermining your own ability to just survive and be healthy. And yeah, so I see this crop up in my own relationship to marketing, and I've seen it hinted at sometimes indirectly and sometimes explicitly by other people when they talk about money and marketing, and they're just like, nah, I don't need that. Or they do know that they need it, but they're just too scared to express it, and they're too scared to do the things. And I'm not trying to say that they're bad. There's just a lot of fear, and I've experienced that fear. Like, there's a lot of fear about putting yourself out there and being like, I'm a human and I have needs. Like, because that's a very vulnerable position. It's much easier and feels much safer to just be like, nah, I'm fine. I'm good here. I don't need you. Because you don't have to expose yourself in any way. You don't have to put yourself out there and say, like, shit, you know, you could say no to me, which is also scary, you know? And I think I see that happening or there's like elements of that in the whole gift economy idea, right? Which is like, I'm running a business and I have needs and I would like to make money so that I can feed myself and everything. But like, I don't need it. You can just give me however much you want if you think it's valuable. You know, if you don't, it's fine. Pay me $1. It's kind of like, you know, setting your own prices and being like, this is how valuable I think it is. And obviously pricing is like much larger discussion than this, but yeah, it's like, no, my time to me is worth XYZ amount, and do you agree to that or no? And if not, then let's move on. But yeah, the gift economy is kind of like, it's very needless. It's very needless in the sense of being like, like, I'm not going to own the fact that I have needs. I'm going to act like I have needs, but they're totally fine if they don't meet them. You know, for whatever reason, whether it's because that feels safer to do, or because you feel like the only thing that you could possibly do if you're attempting to express the fact that you have needs is be manipulative, which is not the case, but I very much have felt that to be true in the past, so I totally understand thinking that way. But yeah, anyway, I guess I just sort of took your discussion and took it in a new direction, but I do think that marketing is such a, in a way, like, fascinating and exciting and very much like concrete activity that forces you to see, like, everything is relationships. Marketing is relationships between me and you. Me with this thing that I want to share with you, me with my needs that I'm trying to get met, And how do I express those to you, and how do we negotiate so that both of our needs get met, right? In an ideal sale, both my needs get met and yours get met. Mine get met via doing something I love to do, and by getting paid an amount that is worthwhile to me so that I can do what I need to do. And your needs are met because I'm selling you something that you need or you really want, and serves you enough to give me the money for that. So that's all this is. It's an exchange. It's a relationship. So I don't know. Sometimes I start to feel like I can't understand the biases against marketing, but then I remind myself that I've felt those for literally 27 years, very, very deeply. So I absolutely do understand those, and it's only very recent that I'm starting to kind of like open up to it. Yeah. So that's that, and I'm gonna call this one done.